Good evening. Now we'll start with this 20.3. Life Office sells 5-year term assurance policy to life age 60. Each policy has a sum assured of 10,000 payable at the end of the year of death. Premium of 200 are payable annually in advance throughout the 5-year term or until earlier death. Let L denote the present value of the insurer's loss on one of these policies at policy outset, ignoring expenses. Write down the expression for L. L is nothing but present value of loss. We know loss is going to be our present value of benefit. So see, L is nothing but present value of loss, and that would be present value of benefit minus present value of premium. Okay, now because we have term assurance policy, we know that we'll have two groups here. When a person dies before the term, that is 5 years, and when a person dies after 5 years. Just give me 1 minute, okay? I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay, so our loss is nothing but present, L is nothing but present value of loss. That would be present value of benefit minus present value of premium. And because we are talking about term assurance policy, there will be a different values when we have less than 5 years, if a person dies within 5 years, or a person dies after 5 years. Okay, so we have 5-year term assurance policy, life age 60. Sum assured is given as 10,000 payable at the end of the year of death. Okay, so if I want to make L, that is our present value of loss, first I will say when my K50 or K60, actually age is 60, so K60 is less than 5 years. Okay, and then K60 when greater than or equal to 5 years. I will have two such terms. So if the person dies within 5 years, we know the payment of 10,000 will be given at time K50 plus 1. Okay, K50 plus 1. This is the time at which the benefit would be given. And the premium that would be paid, see, premium is 200 payable annually in advance throughout the 5 years term or until earlier death. So if the person dies, we'll pay off the benefit and the premium stops after that. So we'll have minus 200 A due K50 plus 1. Okay, this becomes nothing but our what do we say, payment, right, of premium. But if the person survives 5 years, no benefit is given, so 0, minus all of the 5 years premium would have been paid, so 200 A due 5, all 5 years of premium would have been paid. So this becomes nothing but our loss function. So different values at different terms, because we have term assurance policy in this case. Okay, so this becomes our expression for L. Now they're saying assuming AM92 ultimate mortality and 5.5% interest, calculate the expected present value and the standard deviation of L. So first of all, we'll make expected present value of here. Now you don't have to take the L and then decide what your expected present value is going to be. We know our expected present value of loss will be expected present value of benefit. We'll write in terms of term. So 10,000 A50 dash for 5 years. Okay, minus the premium was of 200 and we know it will be A due 55 temporary annuity. This is how we will write our expected present value of loss. Okay, but of course these values, the table is given for 4% and 6%, but the interest here is 5.5%. 5.5%. So we'll have to solve them separately. Okay, so I'll also make expected present value square for loss because we'll have to find the standard deviation. So 10,000 square 2a 50-5. Okay. Yes, was there some question? And then minus, this will also be squared. Okay. So 200 square. Okay, so variance. Okay, variance of let's find variance separately. Okay, we'll talk about the variance. Okay, separately, because we'll not be able to directly do it here. Okay. So first of all, expected present value of loss, we'll find that, and for that we'll have to find this. So a 50-5 will be equal to, see, we have 5 years. Let me just write down all the terms. If the person dies within first year, then payment would be given at the end of first year. So V Q50. Then payment given at the end of the second year if the person survives the first year and dies within the second year. Similarly, third year 2P 50 Q 52 V raised to 4 3P 50 Q 53, and last one V raised to 5 4P Q 54, right? Okay, age is 60. Age is 60, yes. Every here I have written 50, 50. Okay, age is 60. Age is 60, right? Here also age is 60. 60. 60, 60. 60. 60. Now, as I've talked about this before, whenever we have to write these in these terms, it's better if we write these probability K60 is equals to K. If this is what we have, KP 60 Q 60 plus K, right? We can write this in terms of D 60 plus K upon L 60. This would be easier for us to solve. So this can be written, you can directly write the second equation, okay? I just want to explain, that is why I'm writing in both ways. So I'll have 1 by L60, I'll have V D60 plus V square D61 plus V cube D62 V raised to 4 D63 V raised to 5 D64, right? So this is so much easier for us to write. We can directly find all of these values from the AM92 table. Rate of interest is given as 5.5%. So AM92 table, let's go to the D values, small d values. These are the values we are talking about. From 60 to 64, we want the ultimate values. So these are the values. Rate of interest. Okay. We'll divide by L later on. First, 1.055 because 5.5%. Okay, 1.055 raised to minus 1 into 74.5020 plus 1.055 raised to minus 2 into 82.9973 plus raised to minus 3 into 92.317 plus raised to minus 4 into raised to minus 5 into 113.615. Okay. So this value, and then we want L60. L60 will be here. So divided by L60, that is 9287.2164. So this becomes 0.0423696. Okay. What about ADU 65? So ADU 65. In this case, we will have first premium would be given by everyone. Then second premium would be given at time 1 for anybody who survives the first year. So P60, V square 2P60, V cube 3P60, V raised to 4 4P60. Now you can write these in terms of L. You will get L60 in the denominator. I can take it outside and I'll get L60 plus V raised to V into L61 plus, because our NPX will just be LX plus N by LX, right? Denominator will always be LX because everything is P60. V square L62 plus V cube L63 plus V raised to 4 L64. So again, let's find this. First of all, what is our L60? So we have something. So all L60 to L64 values are here. So I'll have 9287.2164 plus 1.055 raised to minus 1 into 9212.7143 raised to minus 2 into 9129.717. um 3973 raised to minus 4 into 89. This is the value, and then we will divide it by 9287.2164. So this is what we'll get, 4.428777. So our expected present value of loss will be 10,000 into 0.0423696. That is I'll just subtract minus 200 into 4.428777. So we have a negative loss. That's a good thing. So in a sense, we will have profit if all the mortality works as expected. Okay. So if all the mortality works as expected, we will have profit, right? But what about the variance? Okay. Now see, in terms of variance, it would be better if we make a loss. See, this is not traditional way of calculating expected value, and this is how we would solve it in examination, because this question is more of understanding question. Now what they are expecting here is we will just calculate different values of losses here. Okay, so let me show you how we would do it in Excel. Okay, it's just faster in Excel, that is why I'm showing you. They would not be asking you such question in the examination. Okay. I'll just open AM92 file just because I will have all the AM92 values there. So let me just open, where is, okay, this is the file that we used last time. Okay, AM92. So this is our AM92 sheet here. Okay. Now what we are trying to do is we are trying to make our loss function for different values. If the person survives for a certain number of years, then what would happen? And if the person survives for a certain number of years, I'll just make a new sheet here. Sheet 2. Okay. So what we'll do is we will calculate loss for different values. So we'll say if K60 can be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or okay, so person might be this, or 5 or more. Okay, so I'll just write it as 5 plus 5 or more. These are the possible values of our K60. The person might die before age 65 or might survive age 65. Okay, so what happens then? So we'll say what would be our loss function value, okay, and what would be the probability of loss, probability of that happening. Okay, I'll just write probability is just going to be KPX into QX plus whatever. So rate of interest I is given as 5.5%. So I'm using that, and I'm going to make the loss function that we made here. Okay, here this is the loss function that we made. Okay, so this will happen when K is less than 5. So this is the loss function that we need to make for first 0 to 5 values, 0 to 4 values. Okay, so 10,000 V raised to Kx plus 1. Okay, and then minus 200 A due. So I'll make that here. I'll say equal to, I'll have 10,000 into V raised to, so bracket 1. I will just write 1.055 raised to minus of, okay, minus of, in bracket I will have K, that is this, plus 1 bracket close, and then minus 200, and then I will have annuity, so multiplied by bracket in numerator I will have A due, so 1 minus 1.055 raised to minus of, we said again K plus 1, so bracket K plus 1 bracket close, another bracket close of our numerator, divided by d. D is going to be I upon 1 plus I. So bracket 0.055 divided by 1.055, bracket close. This is our equation. Another bracket. No, I don't think this bracket is necessary. Okay. So enter. This is going to be the loss value if a person dies within the first year. So we will have a great loss because premium was not paid. I'll do that now for the fourth value. So you can see we will have a lot of losses if person dies within that year. Most likely the probability here we'll have profit because in total we had profit. Okay, so how much profit we'll have? We know if the person dies, if the person does not die within our term, then we will get this much premium, that is 200 for the first 5 years. So we'll have minus, okay, I'll say equal to minus 200 multiplied by 1 minus 1.055 raised to minus 5 divided by 55 by 0.55. So this is the amount of profit we will have if a person survives. What is the probability? Okay, probability of this, probability that a person would survive for 0 number of years. So we'll say equal to, we'll go to our sheet 1 from age 60. So age 60 ultimate value. Okay, this is what we want. It will be dx divided by lx. Okay, so d60 divided by l60 divided by l60. Okay. Then if a person survives for 1 year and dies within the second year, that would be d61 divided by l60. So equal to, go to sheet 1, d61 divided by l60. Okay, we want l60. Enter. Okay. Similarly, I will be going further. So what I can do is I can fix my l60 $, enter, and I can then drag it down. It will just take the next d value. Okay, it will just take the next d value. Of course, I want only till 4 because 5 here it will be if the person survives for 5 years, then the payment would be given. So I'll say equal to, let's go to the sheet here. I'll say if the person survives for 5 years, that means age 65. That would be L65 divided by L60. L65 divided by L60. Yes. So this becomes the probability that a person would survive. Okay. Now the expected value formula, if I want to calculate the expected value, so the expected value formula is just summation for all values of x. We'll have x into probability that would happen. So in Excel, if I want to make that, okay, I will just, rather than writing anything, I'll say equal to the loss value multiplied by the probability value. I will drag it down for all of them, and here I will find the sum. Enter. So this is how much loss we will see, expected loss. This is exactly the same value that we got, right? We got, yes, minus 462.05, right? This is exactly 59, so it is rounding out to 56. Okay, so this is our expected loss. Then to find variance or standard deviation in this case, what we will be doing is we'll be finding expected value of loss square. So for that, I will square these and multiply by the probability. So it's equal to loss raised to 2 multiplied by the probability. Do that for all of them. Say sum, so just drag it here, this is the sum, and then variance. Let me write the variance here. Variance will be equal to expected present value square minus expected present value raised to 2. This becomes our variance. So standard deviation ST will just be square root, so is equal to SQRT. You can use SQRT for square root, or you can use raised to half. That works, no problem. Square root, close, enter. 1920 is our standard deviation. Okay, 1920 is a standard deviation. That means our expected loss is negative. That means we might have profit, but there is a chance that it might go this much up, so we can have a lot of profit or a lot of loss. So standard deviation gives us what are the chances that it might go up by that value and go down by that value. Okay, so there is a chance that we will get this much standard deviation up or standard deviation down from the average value. So again, as I said, they would not be asking you this in your examination. This is just for the understanding purposes. Okay. In the examination, they might ask you to find expected present value of loss, and this is how we will be doing it. This is how we will be doing it. Okay. They won't be asking you standard deviation in such cases, because again, finding standard deviation here, you can see how much calculation we would have to do and make those tables. In Excel, it's so much easier. Okay. Now, using this method, we have another way of finding some probabilities, some premiums. Okay. We'll say finding premium using probabilities. Okay. So in such cases, when we are trying to figure out our premium using some probabilities, what we are going to do is they will give a certain probability. So they will say, so see here we said expected present value of loss is negative. That's a good thing. But there is a chance that I might get losses higher or losses lower. For that I had 1920 value. So it could go as high as 1920 minus this much, and the other way around also. Okay. But majority time I would not want losses. Okay, so majority time I would not want losses, right? So we'll just take an example from the book to understand this. So let me just go to that page number, I think page number 10 or 11 is where, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So page number 11. So we'll take this page number 11 example. So they're saying a whole life assurance pays a sum of 10,000 at the end of the year of death of life age 50 exact at entry, assuming 3% per annum interest, AM92 ultimate mortality, and expense of 4% of every premium. Calculate the smallest level annual premium payable at the start of each year that will ensure that the probability of making a loss under this contract is not greater than 5%. So probability that we'll make a loss, we'll just write it as L, is greater than 0. Probability that we will be making a loss is less than or equal to 5%. This is what we are trying to figure out. or they can ask you like probability of making a profit. So in that case we'll say probability of loss less than 0 is, we'll say, greater or equal to 0.95%. Okay, however you want to write it, we will be taking equal to values and then talking about logically what would happen. Okay. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. So this is probability of loss and this is probability of profit. Okay, so we have to figure out how much premium should we charge in such cases where we will have such profits or something. Okay, so what we will be doing is we will be first making our loss random variable. Okay, future loss random variable. We'll say we have a whole life policy, so 10,000 V raised to K 50, I guess, age is 50, K 50 plus 1 minus, we will have some expenses as well. So expense they are saying is 4% of every premium, so we can just subtract 4% from our premium. So I'll say minus 0.96 premium A due K 50 plus 1. This is our loss function. Okay, this is what we'll have, we will be seeing. So let's say that a certain if a person dies at a certain age, okay, or survives, let's say, K years. Okay, so let's say that loss will be equal to 0 if person survives n years and dies in next year. Okay, so you're saying that loss will be 0 if a person survives for n years and dies in the next years. We know that, as we saw in this table, that as at the beginning, if the person dies at the beginning, we will have a lot of losses. As we go along, the loss is decreasing. Why is loss decreasing? Because we are getting more premium, and of course the benefit is paid later time, so the discounting would be giving a smaller value, right? So as the number of survival years increases, what happens is loss becomes smaller and smaller. So at certain point n, loss becomes 0 because we have whole life here. So we are trying to figure out that value. So we'll say for that Pn, premium that we'll charge for that would be equal to how much? Will be 10,000 V raised to K 50, that 50 will become now n plus 1 upon 0.96 A due n plus 1. So we will be charging Pn premium at that point when losses are going to be 0. And this is the amount of premium that we will be charging. Now if we want that probability that our loss must be less than 0. See, when we take loss is equals to 0, if we want loss to be less than 0, then what happens is n has to be greater than the, or K 50 has to be greater than the n value here. Okay. So as n increases, more and more premium we get, loss is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. So when we say probability that loss must be less than 0, then probability of this will be same as probability of K50 be greater than n. And we are going to take that as 0.05. So if you want equal to, you can take equal to. Okay, depending on what the question is. So because they said that the loss must not be greater than 5%, that means it is less than or equal to 5%, right? So we'll say greater or equal to, in this case, greater or equal to, okay. So we would want this. This is what? Probability kx greater or equal to n is nothing but npx. Okay, it is nothing but npx. So we want npx to be, what did we say at the beginning? We took it as equal to, but we do not want it to be more than 5%. So we are actually looking for less than or equal to 5%. So we are looking for npx to be less than or equal to 5%. Okay, that is what we are looking for here. So here we'll figure out our n, and as we figure out our n, we can substitute it here and we will get the value of the premium that is supposed to be charged. Okay, so let's figure out our value of n. X is 50. Okay, x is 50. This is 50. So NP50 would just be L50 plus n by L50 should be less than or equal to 0.05. That means L50 plus n, okay, L50 plus n, probability loss is, okay, here is the problem. Probability loss is less than 0 is 0.95, not 5%. It is 95%. 95%, right? Loss is less than 0. That just means we are talking about profit. Okay, so we are talking about profit in this particular case. Okay, so 0.95. Actually, this will just become greater than, because we want loss to be less than or equal to 5%. So profit would be greater than or equal to 95%, right? So this is what we are looking for, greater or equal to. So this should be greater or equal to 0.95 of L50. So we'll find the nearest value that becomes greater than this. So L50 we can easily find from our table book. L50 is here. L50 is this. We want 0.95 into L50. L50 is 9712.0728. So you are looking for the value of n where the L becomes greater than this particular value. Okay, 9226. Okay, so when we look up our table, 9226, see here at 60, 922, it is greater than 9226. At 61, it is less than 9226. So we are looking for just greater than, that would be our n is equals to 10 years. N is equals to 10 years. So here what do we get? N is equals to 10. If n is 10, what is our premium? Premium P will be equal to 10,000 V raised to 11 upon 0.96 ADU 11. Rate of interest, they said 3% in the question. So 10,000 into 1.03 raised to minus 11 divided by 0.96 into so this is the premium that we should charge. You can approximate it to 790. This is the premium we should charge so that our losses will be less than 5% of the time. Okay, so our losses would be less than 5% of the time. That just means if we are selling this policy to 100 people, then we will see losses in 5 policies and we will see profit in 95 policies. Okay, expected again. Okay, if we keep this much premium, okay. Is that clear? Let's do a sum for these kind of questions. They have written for premium, they have written G, I write P. Okay, so whenever you see G, they are talking about premium. Okay, so okay, this, let's see this question. This is page number 13 question. Okay. So we have Herbert, age 60, is applying to buy a whole life immediate annuity from, say this is not assurance, this is annuity. Okay, immediate just means we are talking about starting immediately at that time, from an insurance company with his life saving of 200,000. So that is the amount that he'll be paying. That is a single premium. Calculate the largest amount of level annuity payable annually in arrears that the insurer could pay if it requires a probability of loss from the contract of no more than 10%. Now in this case, our losses, when do we get our losses? We'll talk about that. Okay, so loss function would be, what are we paying? We are paying annuity, whole life and immediate annuity. So that means we are talking about arrears. Okay, payable annually in arrears. This side here, right? Annually in arrears. Okay. They're saying assume PMA 92C20 mortality, interest rate 5% and an expense of 1% of each annuity payment. So benefit is going to be whatever annuity payment we are taking. Let's take it as X, and we are paying 1% extra as expenses. So it will just be 1.01. Okay, times X. This is the amount, benefit plus expenses. Okay, so we'll say 1.01 X annuity payment in arrears. So that just becomes K60 minus 200,000. Okay, 200,000. This is our loss. So we'll assume loss is equal to 0 at K60 is equals to N. So loss will be equal to 0 if K60 is equals to N. So X would be how much? X becomes 200,000 divided by 1.1 A N. Okay, this is what our value of X is going to be. Okay, so now here, what happens if a person survives for more number of years? If a person survives for more number of years, then we will have to pay them more annuity. So we will have to pay them more annuity if the person survives for more number of years. That means our loss increases. So you have to take this into logic here. So when we say that a person survives for more than n years, so if we want probability that our loss should be less than, no more than 10%, so less than loss, okay, so L is greater than 0 10% of the times, okay, loss should not be more than 10%, you can say less than equal to 10%. Then we are saying that probability kx or k60 be less than n %10 of the time. Sorry, loss happens when kx is greater. My mistake here, right? If the person survives for more number of years, then loss occurs, right? So if n is greater than, or this k60 is greater than n, then we will have losses because annuity increases, right? Okay, so we will have loss less than 10% of the time if k60 is greater than n, less than 10% of the time. So if we want to make it equal to, see, this is a discrete value. So if I say that I have greater than 5, if I say greater than 5, that is greater than equal to 6, because between 5 and 6 we do not have any other value. Between 5 and 6 we do not have any other value when we are talking about discrete. It directly goes 4, 5 and 6. So when I say greater than 5, that does not include 5, so it includes 6 and more values. Okay, so similarly, if I want to make it into probability k60 greater than or equal to, because that is what our npx formula is, so I will have n plus 1 less than or equal to 0.1. This will be n plus 1 p60 less than or equal to 0.1. So I will have L 61 plus n by...
Sir,
Yes.
can you explain when there's loss, why is k60 greater than n?
So you can look it mathematically. As n increases, a value will increase, right? Annuity value increases. Okay. If annuity value increases, what happens here? Loss increases. Right? You can talk, you can think about it logically. We are paying annuity. So we are saying first payment would be given if the person survives first year. Second payment would be given if the person survives the second year. Third payment given if the person survives for the third year. So we are paying them more and more values as they survive more. So if I am saying that loss is 0 when a person survives n number of years, if the person survives more, we will have larger losses because we are paying more value. Our income was the single premium, right? We have already taken the money and we will not be getting any more money out of it, right? So as the person survives, so survival benefit and death benefit, they will be opposite of each other, right? So this should be less than or equal to 0.1. So L60 they are asking for PMA 92 C20. Okay, so the question is about PMA 92 C20. So we have other tables after AM92 as well. So after AM92, if we go further, from page number 109, we have PMA and PFA 92. Okay, so we have base tables and we have C tables. These are totally different tables. So PMA 92 and PFA 92 base tables are totally different, and PMA 92 C20 and PFA 92 C20 are totally different tables. Okay, M is for male, F is for female. So they asked us PMA 92C20. So these are base tables, and here we have PMA 92C20. PMA 92C20 is on page number 112. PMA 92C20, L60. You can see these values start from 50, x is equals to 50. The reason is because these are for pensioner tables. P is for pensioner. Okay, so that is why these values are starting from 50. So I'll say 0.1 into L60. L60 was 9826.131. So 982.6131. Okay, so we are looking for the value to be 982. 982 will come somewhere here, right? 96 and 97. Okay, so actually 95 and 96. So we would want the value to be less than, point of this. So we would want to be 96. Okay, we would want this value to be 96. Okay, so our 61 plus n is equals to 96. So therefore n becomes 35, I guess. 35. Now n is 35. After that we can easily find our x. So x 200,000 divided by 1.1 into 1 minus, how much was the rate of interest? The rate of interest was 5%. Is to minus 35 on 0.05, bracket close. We get 11103.95. Okay, I made a small mistake. Instead of 1.01, I have written 1.1. Yep, it is this. We have 12,093.407. This is the amount of annuity that we'll pay. Okay. So when death benefit is given, we would want a person to live as much as possible, because premium is dependent on how much time a person lives, and the benefit would be paid as late as possible, right? So present value will be smaller. But when annuity is given, it is exactly opposite, right? If a person lives less number of years, then we will have more profit. So this is the amount of annuity we will be giving them if we would want about 90% of the time profit. So 90% of the cases we will have profit, and 10% of the cases we will have losses. Okay, and that is good enough, no problem. Okay, so this is another way of calculating premium and annuity and stuff. Is that clear? Now this ends our chapter 20 here. Okay, so we saw basically two ways where we were equating the value. So we took expected present value of loss to be equal to 0, and that is why expected present value of premium was equal to expected present value of benefit plus expenses. And the second is using probabilities. Okay, second is using probabilities. So using probabilities is also very simple. We have to figure out a formula about a premium and then figure out if losses happen, what does that mean in terms of whether a person should live more than that number of years, or should not live less number of years. Right? Okay. Now this is a big aspect when we are talking about insurance, right? Calculating the premium, because you cannot tell what would happen in the future, so you have to do these kind of calculations to figure out how much should we charge for a certain policy. Right? Now what happens is, in almost all traditional policies where we are paying premium annually or quarterly or whatever, okay, so we are paying premium slowly, and the benefit is paid again at the end of whatever year of death or whatever. So what happens is, as the age increases, the mortality rate will also increase. That means probability of a person dying would also increase. So if we sell a policy to a person age 50, chances that the person would give initial premiums is definitely high. But as the age increases, as we are going on with that policy, the chances that the person would pay later on premiums starts becoming lower and lower and lower, because more and more people will die. Okay. And what happens is, at the beginning maybe less number of people would die, but as the policy goes further and further, number of people dying would also increase. So what happens is, at the beginning we get a lot of premium, because of course at the first premium would be given by everyone. So if let's say 10,000 people bought our policy, first premium we got 10,000 premium, no problem there. But second year the premium will become less because a certain number of people would die. Third year the premium will become less because of course more number of people would die. Okay, so as the policy moves on, the income that we have becomes smaller and smaller, and the expenses starts becoming more and more, because less number of people died in the first year, but as we go further, more and more number of people die in later on years, because the mortality rate has increased with age. So at the beginning we have more income and less expenses, but as we move forward, the income starts becoming lower and lower and expenses start becoming higher and higher. So if in the first year I got, let's say, a lot of premium and I did not have to pay a lot of benefits, and I treat all of that money as profit, the problem would be what? In later on years I will have a lot of losses. Correct? So we should use the profit that we have attained to compensate for the losses that we might have in the later on years. Correct? So for that, what we do is we keep reserves. Okay, so next chapter is reserves. So this is another big aspect of insurance. So we definitely have to calculate the premium, but then we have to calculate how much reserve should I keep, because this reserve is going to be how much money should I keep aside to compensate for my future losses. Okay, how much money should I keep aside today so that I will be able to compensate for my future liabilities or losses, liabilities, let's say. Okay, that is called as reserves. at any given point in time. So let's say our policy is running for 10 years. We'll calculate how much reserve should I keep at the end of first year, how much reserve should I keep at the end of second year, and so on. Because what happens is we have a lot of money, we have received premium, okay, at the beginning, and we are using that to pay off the benefits. Okay, so what happens is we are not going to keep that money idle. What we are going to do is we are going to invest. Now investment is what? It is risky. Of course, there are some investment that are not risky. Okay, let's say if I talk about FDs, fixed deposit in bank account, the chances that the bank would not pay me the fixed deposit is very low, and if they promise us that they would give us 5% rate of interest, then they would give us 5% rate of interest on that fixed deposit. Similarly, there are other kinds of bonds or investments, especially government bonds. If I'm investing in government bonds, the chances that government will not pay me back are almost negligible. So those kind of investments are called as not risky, or you can call it as risk free investments. Okay, and there will be risky investments like putting that money in stock market, or maybe my company is also working in infrastructure and stuff, so I'll put that money in building houses or building bridges or whatever, right? So investing money in risky businesses where there can be losses, there can be people who might take your money and run away, right? Stock market might fall, the company might shut down for certain reasons. Okay, so those are risky businesses. Okay, so you have risky investments, but risky investments will always give you higher returns. The more risk you take, the more returns you will be getting. That is the basic fundamental principle of investment. The more risk you take, the more rewards you will be getting, more returns you will be getting. Okay. So that means if you are getting more returns, that just means it is more risky. Okay, so we have two types of investment. We have risk-free investment where chances of losing money is negligible, and we have risky business where yes, there is a lot of chance of losing money, but the returns are going to be higher. Even if you are not losing money, maybe they promised us 9% returns, but in actuality they could only give us 3% returns. That happens, right? Mutual funds, stock market, even if you did not lose all your money, but your expectation was 9% returns, but in actuality you got only 3% returns. These kind of stuff happens. So that is the risk that we are taking when we are investing in risky businesses. So what we say is, insurance company has to pay off liabilities, future liabilities. So you have taken money, a small amount of money from people, and promise that if certain stuff happens, then we will pay you this much amount. You have fixed that amount. You did not say that I will invest in this particular investment, and whatever happens you take the amount. Like mutual fund, what is happening is they are not promising you how much money you will get in the future. They say, give us this much money today, we will take a small cut out of it, and whatever happens, how much money your money grows, you will get that much in return after 5 years or after 10 years or whatever. Okay, so they are not promising you that your 1 lakh rupees will become 10 lakh rupees. They say whatever it becomes, you will get that much amount. But that is not how insurance works. Insurance, we have specifically said at least this much amount should be given. That is our assurance. So in that case, you should not be using that money to put in risky business where you might not get your money back. You should not be gambling with somebody else's money. It's a simple concept, right? So how much ever liabilities you have in the future, you will be only investing it in risk-free investment. So the reserves that we create, this is the amount of money that will be required for my future payments. I will use that money only to invest in risk-free investments. So all of these 4% and 6% calculations that we do, those are risk-free rate of interest. We are not taking any risk with that money. Okay. So the premiums that we calculate, we are calculating it according to risk-free investment only. We are saying we are not going to take risk with somebody else's money. Yes, if we are earning profit, we can use that profit to invest in risky business because that profit is our money now. Right? But if we are not earning profit, if it is, our expected loss is zero, so expected profit is also zero, then all of that money is going to go back to the people. Right? So we should not be gambling with that money. We'll be putting that money in risk-free rate of interest, whatever that might be. So all the calculations of reserve we'll be doing again in the risk-free rate of interest. That would be the 4% or 6% depending on whatever is given to us. Okay. So how do we calculate gross reserves? We have two methods of calculating reserves. The first method is prospective and the second is retrospective, as we have done that before in loan schedules, right? Very similar. In prospective, what we will be doing is we will be seeing our future prospects. Whatever is going to happen in the future, accordingly we will be calculating our reserves. So first of all, reserves, we write it as time V. Capital V is the symbol for reserves, that is value of a particular policy. T denotes where we are talking about that reserve. So as we said, reserve would be calculated at any given point in time in the policy, at the end of first year, at the end of second year, at the end of third year, whatever. At any point, how much reserve should we keep? So we'll be writing it as TV. So in prospective, we say the policy started here at age X. Right now we are at age X plus T. And the policy was supposed to go, let's say, till X plus N. Okay. So this much, whatever was has already occurred, we'll not take that into account. We will take future prospects into account. So future cash flows. So we'll be taking future cash flows into. So reserve TV, we'll write it as PRO for prospective, is going to be equal to expected present value of future benefits minus, so benefits plus bonus plus benefits plus bonus. We know B, I always write for benefits plus bonus plus expenses. Okay, I'll write it as E. So future benefits plus expenses minus expected present value of future premium. That is how we'll be calculating our prospective method. Now what happens in whole life policy? Whole life policy, so TV prospective, we'll be saying S amount was given. Right now the person is age X plus T. Okay, in future this is the amount that would be given. We are ignoring bonuses and expenses. We know how to put in those values. Okay. Now, okay, let's take expenses as well. So see, initial expense will always be given at time 0. That is not our future cash flow. Renewal expense, we say, will be given each year, similar to premium, right? So in future, how many year we will be giving? So plus E. Okay, rather I will just tell you that E is our renewal expenses. We will be subtracting that from the premium, because usually that is directly related to the premium, and our terminal expense, we'll be adding that to the sum assured, because it is usually given similar to sum assured. So I'll say S plus F AX plus T minus, say, P minus E A due X plus T. This is how we'll write for our whole life policy. What about term policy? In term policy, we'll say TV, again prospective PRO. We'll say S plus F AX dash. Now, right now, the person is age X plus T, so plus T, and the number of years that are left is N minus T, so N minus T number of years. P minus E A due X plus T N minus T. Okay. So accordingly, see, we will be using this concept. We will not be using this as formulas. Okay. These are just understanding of what might happen in the future, and accordingly we'll make our formulas. So I will not be writing what happens in endowment, what happens in pure endowment, because we will be using our logic of what would happen in the future. Okay. Now whenever we are writing such values where it might not feel that I am writing dash on X or dash on T, usually we write such a symbol and put a 1 here. Okay, just for the writing purposes. Okay, so I'm not going to write for any other policy here. Let's talk about retrospective. Retrospective method. In retrospective method, we are going to use whatever happens in past to figure out how much liability we have to pay in future. So we'll be using past cash flows. Now in future we were supposed to pay more liabilities, or you might say more sum assured would be paid in future, and less premium would be collected in the future, because we have collected more premium in the past and less payment was done in the past. So here when we are taking past cash flows, we will take it exactly opposite. We'll say retrospective past cash flows. So we'll say premium, so P minus E. Now depending on whether you're talking about your expenses were done even in the first year or not, it depends on that. Okay, so let's assume E even in first year. Okay, so I'm assuming that the recurring expense was given even in the first year. So again, instead of this, first I will write I have expected present value of past. Okay, this I will take it afterwards. Past premium minus expected present value of past benefit plus expenses. Okay, in this case, whole life, term, endowment, we will have exactly the same past experiences, because if the person dies within those years, then the payment would be given. Now see, here when we say expected present value, okay, one simple thing, if we take expected present value, what happens is all the cash flows, all the present value goes to time 0. We want it to be time t. So what we will be doing is we will be dividing this by v raised to t tpx. Okay, v raised to t tpx, we are dividing by that. Okay, so this becomes our formula. So for whole life, term, endowment, everything, we will have exactly the same formula. Here I will write I as our initial expense, E recurring expense, except first, and F is our terminal expense. Okay, so TV retrospective formula will just be P minus E due X for T years, because again we are taking only cash flows from here to here. Okay, now in the first year we did not have a recurring expense, so I will have to subtract I minus E. Okay, you can figure that out, because our E will be E due X T minus 1, because we will be taking this, so minus 1 goes here. Okay, then minus benefits, that S plus F A X dash T. So because in the past T years only death benefit was given, no survival benefit is given, because the policy is still going on, right? So we will calculate retrospective. Okay, again this is a suggestive formula, don't treat it as an actual formula. This is what your formula is going to be. Past expenses, past benefit, past premium. Okay, just write note for a without profit contract, your TV prospective method must be equal to TV retrospective method. So both methods should give you exactly the same reserves. Whereas for a with profit contract, we will use, with profit contract, we will be using only prospective method. Okay, with profit contract, we'll be using only prospective method. We'll not be using retrospective method. Now, similar to premium, we said we have net premium and we have gross premium. We will have again net reserves and gross reserves. Okay, so we have net reserves and gross reserves. So again, net reserves would be the minimum value to be kept as a reserve. Okay, it will be the minimum value that is supposed to be kept as a reserve. Again, as I explained you for the net premium, net reserves are calculated for the purpose of understanding how much a particular company should keep as reserves for a certain policy. Okay, so again, for regulation purposes, IRDA keeps tab of how much reserve is kept by which particular company, so that we know that there is no problem in future liability, paying off the future liabilities that would come. Okay. So they will say for such and such policy, you should keep at least this much reserves. And company would calculate gross reserves for themselves because there are expenses involved, there are bonuses involved, a lot of different things might be involved. Okay. So first thing, when we are talking about net reserves, it uses net premium. So we have already calculated premium, and using that we are calculating our reserves, right? So when we are talking about our net reserves, if you want to calculate net reserves, we'll be using net premium. For gross reserves, you will be using gross premium. No expenses considered. Okay, no expenses considered. Expenses and commission. No expenses and commissions are considered here. So yes, or you can say all expenses considered. When we are talking about with profit contract, no past, no future bonuses, considered, but past bonuses are considered. See, whenever we are declaring a certain bonus, we are promising that this much amount we will definitely give. So let's say a policy with profit contract, we have 10,000 as a sum assured. At the end of the first year, we promise them 10 as bonus. So if the person dies anywhere in the future, the amount that now should be given is this much, 10,000, 10 rupees. Let's say next year again, we now promise a bonus of, let's say, 50. So If a person dies after that, the amount of money that should be given would be 10,060. So bonus is the amount that we have now promised. It has now been added to the sum assured. So whatever has been already declared in the past, that should be considered. But in future, because we are calculating the minimum amount, in future we may say that we will not be giving any bonuses, or there zero bonuses might be declared. Okay. So that is why while calculating net reserves, we take past bonuses because now they are part of sum assured. But future bonuses can be skipped because we can assume that no bonuses might be given in the future while calculating the minimum reserves. But for gross reserves, all bonuses are considered. So for gross reserves, you have to take all bonuses into account. Okay. Let's see some examples. Page number 8, question. This is chapter 21, page 8. So saying calculate the gross premium prospective reserve that should be held at the end of the 10th policy year of a 25-year regular premium endowment assurance policy with a sum assured of 75,000. So see, we are talking about prospective reserve. Now see, you can just write 10V because we are talking about reserve kept at the end of 10 years. So I'll just write it as 10V. So because we are talking about prospective reserve, we would be taking future bonuses minus future premium. So it's equal to, okay, so how much was the bonus? Bonus is 75,000 payable on maturity or at the end of the earlier death. Okay. Policy was taken out by a person age exactly 45 at the entry. So age, now we have that. Gross premium, which is being paid annually in advance for the duration of the policy, is this much. They've given us the premium. The expenses are 75% of the first premium and 5% of the subsequent premium plus initial expense of 250. Now see, these expenses, initial expenses will not be taken into account because we are talking about future prospects, right? In future cash flows, this initial expense, first premium and the initial expense of 250, these have already been done. These are past values. So in future, the expense that we will be seeing is only the 5% of the subsequent premium, right? 5% of the subsequent premium. That is why while writing the prospective reserve formula, I did not use I at all. Why? Because that was at time 0. Similarly, this initial expense and this 75% of the first premium, that are initial expenses at time 0. So from here, we'll have 75,000 that is supposed to be paid. See, at entry, the age was 45 and we were going for 25 years. Okay. So at entry, age is 45 and we are going for 25 years. But we are calculating at time 10. So right now the person is age 55 and would be going for the rest 15 years. And we are talking about endowment assurance, therefore I am taking endowment value here. Okay. Endowment assurance. Let me just see if we have longer question. Okay, no. AM92 ultimate 4%. Okay. So, okay. And then minus, I will subtract this 5% from the premium. So I'll say 2132 into 0.95, 95% of the premium. Okay. Into A due 55, 15. They are talking about AM92 4%. Right, this is going beyond the limits of 60 and 65, so we'll have to calculate. Calculate these from AM92 and do tell me what these values are. Do calculate and tell me. I'll be back in 2 minutes. So what's the value of this? V raised to 15, 15p, 55. Now instead of calculating all of this, what they have done is they said our endowment value will just be 1 minus d times A due 55, 15. We have studied this also in chapter 18. So accordingly, this value becomes 0.57621. Okay. So the reserves we are getting is 20899. Okay. So these are the future reserves. That means these are the prospective reserves. That means at time 10, this is the amount of money per policy we should keep aside. So per policy holder that is active at that time. That means at time 10, certain number of policy holders might not be alive. Certain policy holder might leave the policy, they did not pay the premium. So the people who are active at that point, at that time, for them, for each person, we should keep this much as reserves. Okay, should keep this much as reserves for them. Let's calculate retrospective reserves. Not given a good gross premium retrospective reserve. Let's see this policy. They're saying calculate a gross premium retrospective reserve at the end of the second policy year for a 5-year single premium endowment assurance with the sum assured of 30,000 payable on maturity or at the end of earlier death issued to a 48-year-old assuming AM92 select mortality, interest of 4% per annum effective. Initial expense is 360 and renewal expense is 45 at the start of each year excluding the first. So here, which page are we at? Page 22. We are calculating the retrospective reserve. So 5-year single premium endowment assurance. Single premium, second policy year, 5-year single premium endowment assurance with the sum assured of 30,000 payable on maturity at the end of the year of earlier death. So in this, they have not given us what the premium is. So we'll have to first find the premium. Okay, single premium. So it will just be the expected present value of the benefit plus expenses, right? So if I write benefit plus expenses together, I will have 30,000 payable on maturity or at the end of the year of earlier death. So it will be 30,000 A 48 select, because we are talking about select mortality for 5 years endowment value, minus plus the expenses we have 360, and then we have renewal expense at the start of each year excluding the first. So plus we will have 45 A due select 48 5 minus 1. So single premium okay. So here again, if we calculate this A due value, we can use that to calculate the endowment value as well. So if we take A due select 48 5 After 5 years, this would become 53 ultimate value. We are talking about 4%. You can write this in terms of D. Okay. So I'll take M92 4% value. We are talking about select 48. Select 48 be here. 18.027 minus I will take ultimate 60, ultimate 53. Ultimate value 53 is 16.524 multiplied by capital D value. $53 ultimate and 48 select. Then our A select 48 5 will be 1 minus D ADU select 48 5. So premium so the premium is going to be 25,202.05. So this is the single premium that is supposed to be paid. Okay. If you are calculating retrospective reserves, so retrospective reserves at time 2, so 2V. We'll be taking the past premium minus past benefits and expenses. So premium was just single premium. So 25, or I'll just write it as P minus. In past, only the death benefit was given. So to the people who died within those 2 years, only they would be getting the death benefit. So 30,000. A select 48-2. And then the expenses, will subtract that. 360 happened because we are talking about again past expenses. And then 45, again A due, select 48 for 2 years minus 1 divided by, we'll have V raised to 2, 2P select 48. 48 plus 2 gives us 60. Okay, so first of all, V raised to 2, 2P select 48. I will use that from the D table. D table, we are already at D table. 48 plus 2 would be 50. Let 48 plus 2, 50 ultimate, because after 2 years the value becomes ultimate. 1366.61 divided by 48 select 1483.73 and into v raised to 2 1.0. Okay, no, this is what are v raised to 2, 0.921064. ADU select 48 2 would be what? ADU select 48 minus v raised to 2 2p select 48 ADU 50. ADU select 48 be this 18.027 minus answer into we want ADU 50. ADU 50 becomes 17.444. 1.959963. A select 48 minus v raised to 2 2p select 48 A 50. A select 48 will be 0.30664 minus answer into A 50 middle 50.32907. Okay, so the reserves premium, that is 25,202.05 minus 30,000 into 0.00354,553 minus 360 plus 45 to 0.959963 divided by v raised to 2 2p48, it would be 0.921064. So the reserve we should be keeping at the end of second year will be this much, 26,902.45 per person alive. Okay. Nearly the same value. I don't think we have made any mistake, but check it later on if we had made any mistake. Okay, premium 25,202. Okay, small difference. Reserve also we have little bit of difference. Maybe I might have made mistake somewhere, but sometimes what happens is instead of ultimate value I take select value. Instead of select I take ultimate value. So just check it once more. So this is how we will calculate our retrospective as well as prospective calculations of reserves. Now most of the sums of chapter 20, chapter 21 you will be able to do. In the assignments we have chapter 19, 20, 21 as well as 24 together, because chapter 24 uses the concept of this reserves, and it's a very small chapter. If possible we'll study it tomorrow. Okay, most likely yes. Chapter 22 and chapter 23 we'll be studying at the end after we have completed all 28 chapters. After that we will be doing 22 and 23. They are important chapters, but it's just these all continuously will be useful for us. And then chapter 22, 23 usually we get a very small portion out of it, so we'll do it at the end and it will become easier for us to do it then. Okay, so let's end our class here. We'll meet tomorrow morning 8 a.m. and continue. Okay. Bye.